All right, everyone, I am here. I am here. It just took a minute to get started. My dad says he doesn't like to have anything done on a Monday because people are coming off of the weekend. So sometimes it takes a moment to get started on a Monday. I'm going to share this stream over on my original Big Discussions 76 channel. I see that I got a few likes over here already, which is cool because that means some of you all are excited to hear about electric cars and green initiatives. Let's see. So let me make sure I can see myself on YouTube. Let me go to my channel. Yep, we're live. Okay, so I am going to share this over on my original channel, which is my biggest antenna. Whoops, let me go over to my original channel. All right. All right, I'm going to type really quickly here. All right, that's been shared over there, and I see I have yet another like. So people really want to, some of you all really want to hear about electric cars. So let me go back. Okay, so I'm going to play the intro, and then I'm going to bring my guest up. His time is very, very valuable, and we're going to have a discussion about the Clean Cities Coalition and electric cars, and what our roads are going to look like in the future. So I will see you all on the other side of the intro. For those of you who are in here, hey, please shout yourselves out in the chat. Let us know if you have any questions about these technologies and what we can expect in the future. And hey, y'all, hey, this channel is not monetized. So, Complex Design is here. Complex, thank you for stopping through. Complex has come to the channel to talk about the IoT and micro mobility. I think that's the term. But if you're watching this, I don't have AdSense over here. I don't have a super chat over here. So if you want to make a donation to the channel, my Cash App and PayPal are here. Okay, we got Rael in the house too. All right. All right, so I'll see you guys on the other side of the intro. This should be a fun conversation. All right. All right, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Anwar Yusuf Dunbar, and this is Big Discussions 76, Science and Technology. First of all, please like this video, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel. All engagement helps when you're doing something like this, and especially for topics like this. Science and technology related topics really fall under more so the education umbrella as opposed to the entertainment umbrella. And people flock to the entertainment. The education, that's a little more tricky. But this is an important topic as it's going to affect pretty much all of us going forward. Last night when I was watching the Bears and the Packers, I think it was Chevy. Chevy created a nice ad where the song was, it was by Fleetwood Mac, but they created a nice ad promoting their electric SUVs. So you know that the current administration, they've been very bullish on electric vehicles, and this is just something that I thought would be fun to talk about as part of this channel. It has a technology focus, and I know someone from years back who's a fellow Buffalonian who is involved in these efforts right now. So I thought that it would be fun to have him come on and talk to us about these efforts and talk to us about what he's doing, and perhaps open the door for others to come talk about these coming technologies, because again, we're all going to be affected by this. So before I bring up my guest is Antoine Thompson from the Clean Cities Coalition. I think that the Washington, D.C. Area, what's the word I'm looking for? Office of that organization. He'll tell us about that. But before I bring Antoine up, let's just do a quick review of Chemistry 101. So most of us now have vehicles that run on petroleum products, and which use those petroleum products, that gasoline in combustion reactions. So for those of you who took chemistry, I was a biology major, did my PhD in pharmacology, toxicology. So I had to take Chemistry 101. So one of the first things you learn is about the different types of reactions. And for those of you who are savvy on cars, you know that our engines run off of combustion reactions. So they use hydrocarbons in the form of gasoline. The engine ignites those hydrocarbons, causing the pistons to do what they do. That turns the crankshaft, that turns the wheels. And the more gas you give that engine, the faster everything goes, the faster your vehicle goes. So if you look at this diagram once again, the byproducts, so in chemistry terms, you have products and reactants. So your products are the hydrocarbon there represented by the CH4, the oxygen. You add some heat to that. Those are your products. And then those are your reactants. It's been a while since I took Chemistry 101. Those are your reactants, the hydrocarbon and the oxygen. You heat those, and then your products are carbon dioxide and water. So in terms of climate, I have a climate picture here. That's a picture of the Earth. That's a picture of clouds and our atmosphere. The concern is that, and we've had this concern for the last 30 to 40 years. I mean, back when I was in elementary school, is the carbon dioxide that's given off from the tailpipe. So the science and the technology community over the years have asked that question. Not only what's the effect of all this carbon dioxide going into the atmosphere, because as we know, the Earth has several spheres and they're all interrelated. So not only the question has been asked, what's the effect of all this carbon dioxide going up into the atmosphere, but also what are other ways that we can, what are other how else can we power our vehicles so that we can still get around and do the things that we need to do and do the things that we want to do and transport our goods and services. And so at some point, I had this picture queued up. I see someone commented there in the chat. I'm going to get to that in a second. At some point, the electric engine was conceived. Here's a picture of that. As opposed to having a gas tank there in the back of the car, you have a battery. And I've seen them, and I'm sure you all have seen them. We're starting to see these charging stations sprouting up everywhere. So this is at least in part the alternative to combustion engines and the release of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. And there are efforts for the expansion of this. So I'm going to bring up Antoine Thompson of the Greater Washington, D.C. Clean Cities Coalition, and we're going to have a Q&A on this. And hopefully this will lead to other discussions, and this can lead to other individuals coming to talk about this, because this is something I'm interested in. I'm certain this is something everyone else is interested in. If you guys have questions and comments there in the chat, please let us know. Let's see where this conversation goes. So I'm going to welcome Antoine Thompson from the Greater Washington, D.C. Clean Cities Coalition. Antoine, welcome.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me on your program this morning. Really excited to be here.
Okay. Thank you for coming. Okay. Antoine, I sent you some questions, and again, I want to be respectful of your time. So let's just jump right in. So when last we spoke, you were on the housing side with NAREB, and then I looked up a couple of years later, and you're into electric vehicles and green initiatives, and you're with the Greater Washington, D.C. Clean Cities Coalition. So looking at my script here, what got you involved with in environmental and energy policy, and now with electric cars? How did this all start?
Sure. Well, first, again, thank you for having me. I still do real estate. I've been in real estate over 11 years, and I'm also still involved with some Black housing policy related work. I started off doing environmental work when I was in college, way back in the day, just trying to get recycling on the college campus. For some of you older folks, you remember back in the late 80s, early 90s, it was a fight to try to get curbside recycling and get recycling benches put in public and private buildings and at your curb. And so that was some of my earliest activism. Then when I was on the legislative staffer for the city council in Buffalo, then a city council member, I was really involved with a number of environmental issues, everything from trying to cover the expressway it cuts through inner city neighborhoods in Buffalo, to trying to expel the light rail transit, to working hard to clean up contaminated sites, and a number of environmental issues. Then when I got to the state Senate in New York, I was the chair of the Committee on Environmental Conservation, and I was the first African American to chair the state Senate Committee on Environmental Conservation, the first Democrat to chair that committee in over 50 years. So I've been involved on and off with environmental policies. And last year, I chose to take a great position at a critical time in our country, leading a clean energy organization called Greater Washington Region Clean Cities. Our area includes D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. We're part of a 90-plus network of clean city organizations that were founded in 1993 by Bill Clinton, President Clinton. And so one of our big things right now, we do a lot with alternative fuels, uh, environmental sustainability, workforce development, and equally important is racial justice and equity. And so one of our big initiatives right now that we've been working on for over 15 years deals with the electrification of cars, trucks, and light to heavy duty vehicles. We run a number of programs in that space as well.
Okay, I'm going to show a picture here. Everyone, what you're seeing, I alluded to this in my little short, crude introduction, but we're seeing the appearance of these. I'm seeing the appearance of these everywhere.
Oh yeah, popping up.
These chargers. Okay, and so everyone is a bit of a background. Antoine is a fellow Buffalonian, so we have a bit of a history. So we go back. And yeah, we spent 1 year of college on the undergraduate level.
And Sam, did you go to Bennett too, or did you?
No, I'm a Hutch Tech guy.
Hutch Tech, okay. That's why he's so smart. All that tech.
Well, some would argue with that, Antoine. But okay. So, Antoine, before we go on, I have a very smart group here.
I see. The chat is on fire.
Yeah, so there may be some questions.
Sure.
Some questions there that some skeptical questions about this technology. With everything, there's a yin and a yang. There's we're pro, I'm not sure this is a good idea. So the group I have here, they're knowledgeable on these things, and they might come from another perspective.
Sure.
So, and also, guys in the chat, play nice. Antoine's my guest, so play nice. And I'll read some of these questions because I want to make this interactive. But if you don't have the answers, again, I can have other individuals come and talk about this. So we're going to go to question number 2. Then I'm going to read some of your comments as we go along. Once again, guys, I don't have a super chat over here. So if you want to donate something, that's always helpful. Talk about what the Clean Cities Coalition is designed to do, or is it strictly in the name? And are you all in every city across the United States?
We're not in every city. We're in most of the major metro areas around the country, but we're not in every state. But we're in most of the regions across the country, but not in every one.
Okay. Let's see. So the next question.
And then one of the big things that we do is reduce America's dependence on foreign oil and on gasoline in particular. And so one of our big things is about reducing greenhouse gas emissions, also around the issue of deployment of new technologies. We are fuel agnostic, meaning that we don't prefer one fuel over the others. We have programs, everything from biodiesel to hydrogen to propane, of course, electrification. So we support the whole ecosystem of clean, renewable energy, for particularly in the area of transportation.
Okay, it's interesting you just said that, because that's kind of with everything that's going on with the conflict on the other side of the world, and if I understand this correctly, us getting a lot of our petroleum from Russia. It seems like things are just kind of intersecting right now. We've had to deal with.
And I would add to that. So one of the things that we must be careful of is making sure, as many Americans and Mao people around the globe have always been concerned about, not just Russia, but the Middle East, and parts of Africa for that matter, for oil, and South America. But we cannot afford to replace one dependency with another dependency. What do I mean by that? Many of the materials like lithium and other items to power electric cars are not readily available in the United States. And so what's happened is Russia and China and some other countries have basically positioned themselves as the gatekeepers for uh, the materials, some of the critical materials that are going to be necessary to accelerate the transition to electric cars for the long haul. So my point is that we need to continue to advocate for more technologies. Uh, there's different ways to power electric cars beyond just traditional batteries. There's a number of emerging technologies, and that's why there's so much focus on seeing how we can have electric cars with different forms of batteries beyond just depending on lithium. Otherwise, we'll be pushing this same problem of depending on certain materials for passenger and heavy duty vehicles onto our next generation, and wars will be fought over that. And so there's an opportunity now to make sure that we explore other things like hydrogen, like biofuels, like renewable propane, and other things, plus electrolysis, where you can actually power cars and vehicles using water. So there's a lot of different innovation that's out there. And I think that moving towards electric cars is great, but we need to have a diversity of fuels for passenger and heavy duty vehicles moving forward.
Okay, that's interesting. So it sounds like what I hear you saying is it's important to have a balanced approach. We just can't put all of our eggs in the electrical vehicle basket. Because I'm going to read some of these comments, Antoine. You don't have to. You may not have answers for them. You may not have responses to them. You may have heard a bunch of these before. But one of the concerns is the pricing of the electric vehicles, and how are we just going to jump from the combustion engine to the electrical engine? The price of those cars is 3 times as much. How is the population going to afford them? So I'm going to read some of these again.
Well, let me just jump on the one question about pricing. Right?
Okay.
So many of the manufacturers right now are beginning to pull down the price. I think when you look at Ford and General Motors, they all have stated that they're working right now to bring down the price. If you look at the Equinox right now, that price they're running commercials now on TV. The starting price is $30. The goal for many of the American manufacturers and some foreign ones is to have prices around $25,000 within the next couple of years. Yes, the electric vehicle industry for so long has been, for the well-heeled individual. But understand that you can buy used electric cars at an affordable price. And there are different makes and models. And so let's continue to innovate. The market is still in its infancy, meaning that less than 10% of Americans own electric cars in the country. So we're well in the beginning phase of really being able to show which way this market is going to go.
Yeah, and I'll add on that pretty much every new technology, when it's first introduced, the price is up here, whether it's
cell phones, when cell phones,
personal PCs.
When cell phones first came out, they were very expensive, right? I mean, they were big, they were bulky. You had a battery pack, you had something in your car. If you had it in your car, it was a premium, and it was very expensive. But they had to make a decision, and I'll never forget. One of my many jobs I've had in 1995. I was in Atlanta. I had a part-time job, and I was selling cell phones on the weekend for a couple months, and I'll never forget them saying that the price of cell phones were going to come down. and surely within 3 to 4 years, those prices came down, and there was a rapid adoption of those. I remember when I first got on the city council in 2001, we were always fighting with the residents were always fighting about the payphones and drug dealers selling at the corner. They have a pager, they get a page, they go to the cell phone, do the drug deal, right? That problem on the payphone has a limit, but drugs haven't. But the point I'm making is that there was a tremendous effort to bring down the cost, and now you can get cell phones for as much as $1,500 down to one for $100 or less. So hopefully that will happen with this technology as well.
Okay. I'm going to read through some of these comments, then we'll move on to question number 3. Okay. And again, these are probably things in your arena you've heard ad nauseum. Say we have a few good mornings, a few pieces. Complex Design, Rael, Doug, thank you for being here. Aquateki, thank you for being here. Doug says, I'm having mixed thoughts on the need for EV cars. I do recognize the need to correct the problems with the climate, but from what I've learned, it's just as much pollution from the mining of cobalt. Lithium, that's equivalent to the current amount of pollution. Let's see, Slick Rick asks, how do they generate the power for electricity? How do they mine for materials for the batteries? Complex Design says mandating EVs is a bad move. We don't have the infrastructure in place to ban ICE vehicles by 2030. This is a WEF mandate, so I'm not familiar with those acronyms. At this point, you might be. Doug says it takes so much material to create one EV car. I don't know if it's worth it, the cost of the replacement battery. I believe this is more about money than the environment. Like I said, Antoine, I'm sure you've heard a lot of these counter arguments before. Let's see. Slick says California's infrastructure is so bad, many people won't be able to charge their cars. Let's see. Doug, I'm inclined to agree with you. Aquateki says, we'll behave, LOL. Yeah, guys, every time you have a guest, even if you have a dissenting opinion.
Yeah, let me give you a few things about this.
Go for it.
So one, the first thing is that electric cars have been around for well over 100 years. Most people are unaware that Ford was actually, his first vehicle was electric, and a decision was made to go to the combustion engine because of gasoline was readily available. And actually, African Americans have been involved with electric vehicle technology for over 100 years as well. But a decision was made to be able to use oil and diesel well over 100 years ago. So it's not that electric vehicles are a new phenomenon. Remember, the first cars were electric.
So Antoine, hold on. Are you saying like way back when the Ford Motor Company was conceived, they had electric vehicle technology back then?
Yes, they did.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's Googleable. Search it on the line. Anything I say, you can refute or support. Secondly, in terms of the grid capacity, that is a challenge. And the same was true for everything around the combustion engine, right? America made space to invest in cars and trucks. Local governments, state governments, with highways and roads. Those were for the cars. Many neighborhoods were destroyed in inner cities for cars. Local taxpayer dollars were used for cars. It just didn't happen by accident, right? And so the government has always invested in forms of same thing was done for roads, right? And for railroads to go from, we gave lots of land and invested in And then just last week, Amtrak, President of the United States, got involved with Amtrak labor dispute because the government has always been involved in various modes of transportation. I would say on the area of grid capacity, it is a very big issue. We do need to take that very seriously. We also need to green the grid. Our permitting process is very slow in the United States, and most people don't want transformers and new transformers in their backyard. So that's going to be an issue around siting transformers and the transformer permitting process as we accelerate EV adoption. There's not been any consistency in terms of really accelerating that process across the nationally. Now, with the new bipartisan infrastructure law that was passed by Congress and signed into law by the president in November 2021, you will see right as we speak, state governments around the country just last week, many of them over 35 states, their plans to have electric vehicle corridors to go from one part of the state to the other. They were approved by US DOT and president. So you're going to see more electric vehicle infrastructure to go from one part of the country to the other part over the next couple of years. On the area of, as I stated before, around grid capacity, local and state governments and the U.S. Department of Energy and DOT and a number of other federal agencies do need to take greater steps to strengthen grid capacity. We also need to make sure that the grid is using more cleaner energy to create electricity, like hydropower, like wind, like solar. Because to some of your comments, yes, as we talk about mining for some of the materials, as we talk about generating electricity, right now it's not a clean energy process. But we can't make perfection the enemy of progress, right? We know the hazards of diesel compared to biodiesel. We know the hazards of gas. And we also know what we're going through right now, that the current system of powering cars is not working. And there are a number of technologies that are coming onto the market that will strengthen the use of electric vehicles in the United States and globally.
Okay. All right. The next question, this goes back to the Fleetwood Mac Chevy commercial I saw last night, and I was just thinking about I went to go see Hamilton last week. I don't know if you saw Hamilton, but
yes.
There's a there was a scene where Aaron Burr was talking about in the room where it happens. So my next question is, are you all, is the Clean Cities Coalition, are you all in dialogues and working with the auto manufacturers to bring these technologies online, and are you all coordinating with them?
Yeah, we work with a number of manufacturers, technology companies, what they call EVSCs, electric vehicles supply equipment companies. We're involved with cybersecurity related issues as well, and we get calls on a weekly basis from people that are asking us to help display and promote their vehicles. I mean, I just did a drive last week with a gentleman with a company called GEM Gym, and they have these electric vehicles that you can actually, they're street legal. They go up to about 25 miles per hour. I love it. It was fun and it was exciting. I was driving it around DC. You can use it. You can drive it on the street, or you can use it at different shopping centers, airports. It's faster than a go-kart and also a golf cart, but you can take the doors on and off. So there's so many different technologies. We're actually going to host a alternative fuel vehicle display on October 19th in DC, and it'll have all different types of things. You'd be surprised how much innovation is taking place. But yes, we work with a lot of OEMs on. We run an electric school bus program where we're promoting electric school buses around the country, but especially in the DC, Maryland, Virginia, and West Virginia area. We also have a charging program where we're putting up over 75 electric vehicle charging stations in our area. And then we have a program we're working with apartment owners and condo owners to get EV charging in apartments and condos and multi-unit dwellings around the country as well.
Okay. I want to thank Aquatechie for the Cash App donation. Thank you very much. If you guys are enjoying this, please definitely hit the like button and share it. And if you want to make a donation, please do that. I'd like this to be the first of many discussions here on my channel about this, as it's an emerging technology and it has ramifications for all of us. Yeah,
Can I just add to that the racial equity part of this is really important. As African Americans, we have to make sure that we're not in a situation where our neighborhoods are the last one to get electric vehicles because this is happening. The technology is rapidly changing. There's wireless charging. There's all different type of electric charging that's taking place right now. And we suffer the most in the country as a result of bad air quality. Highways often run through our neighborhoods. Diesel vehicles run through our neighborhoods. We're right next to the cars, the thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of cars that run through our areas, combined with living closer to railroad tracks that have diesel-powered rail cars going through our areas. So that's why our kids have higher rates of asthma, and we are more likely, our kids and our adults are more likely to have respiratory illnesses, which then makes us more likely to be out of school higher days a year and off work more days per year because of these respiratory illnesses from poor air quality.
Okay. Now I have another question for you that I didn't write down, but as you were talking, Antoine, I was thinking, with me being a STEM guy and a STEM advocate and having a STEM channel, that in terms of the younger people, there have to be a lot of opportunities to help shape this technology and fine tune it going forward. So this is where things are going, and I think it's important for everyone to keep that in mind. If you have a young person in your circle who has the aptitude for this thing, there's a place to get in to help shape this, or there are places to get in to help shape this. I don't know if it was on Facebook or wherever, but might have been in via email, but you said something about trucks, getting more electric trucks on the road. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's one of the other dirty secrets about what needs to happen. Medium to heavy duty trucks are worse on the environment than actually passenger vehicles. So it takes anywhere, depending on the size of the truck, anywhere from 7 to 11 cars to make the type of pollution for one large truck, right? And most of our focus right now is not on all the trucks that we see running down the highways. It's actually on the passenger vehicles, and they represent a smaller share of the pollution that is killing people, right? Because part of this is not just climate change. It's also the fact that air pollution, causes lung cancer and other respiratory illnesses, right? And so there's there was $5 billion that the federal government has allocated for the electrification of for clean school buses. It's not all electric, but but some of it will go for renewable propane and also for electric school buses, because many of our kids are on diesel powered buses. And actually, the air on the bus, according to National Resource Defense Council, is actually more dangerous on the bus than actually driving behind the bus, right? And most of the kids in America are riding on diesel powered buses. So that's a thing that we've got to change. And you can repower the bus with other technologies or just buy new ones. But the electric school buses are very, very expensive. They're almost 2.5 times the cost of one electric existing power, gas power or diesel powered bus. The second thing is, yes, a lot of companies are looking at Mack truck, and a number of companies are creating some amazing vehicles to move heavy equipment. That's why you have Amazon partnering up with companies. UPS is partnering up with companies. The post office is partnering up to get all those to come up with what we call zero emission vehicles, because again, medium and heavy duty trucks create more pollution than all the thousands of cars that you have rolling around here. So we've got to, that's the elephant in the room. We've got to be able to address heavy duty, medium and heavy duty vehicles, clearly buildings as well, passenger vehicles, and we've got to make the electric grid more environmentally friendly as well. And then we've got to support other technologies that can move for heavy duty vehicles and others. And the reason why so many people like heavy duty vehicles are to try to accelerate their electrification, because they have defined routes. You can charge the trucks 6, 8, 10 hours between usage. You can put solar on the tops of those trucks, and there's just so many common sense reasons why we need to electrify more of the trucks that are heavy duty trucks on the road. There's a big push on that as well. I spoke in May this year at what they call the Big Expo, which is the Advanced Clean Transportation Expo in Long Beach. I'm actually going to a fleet advocacy day today in Arlington, Virginia, and a lot of the big fleets are looking at electrifying their big trucks.
Yeah, well, as you were saying that, I was thinking also our economy runs on those. The transferal of services, well, transferal of goods. I keep saying goods and services, but goods from one region to the next. Our country runs on that, just like our railroads. So, and as you said, those consume quite a bit of fossil fuels, and so I guess, as you said, the amount of waste produced from one truck is equivalent to a certain number of cars. So I could see that trying to electrify that component of our supply chain being of tremendous interest. Okay. Well, we talked about the price. It's foreseeable that the price of these vehicles will come down eventually, which is a major concern for individuals who don't own electric cars right now. One of the things, before I get to the next question, one of the things I've been trying to wrap my mind around is over, like, if you're taking a long distance trip with an electric vehicle, will it be the same thing as a fossil fuel powered car, where you can go for 3 to 4 hours, or we have to charge several times, along the way? That's just something I think about when I think about these vehicles.
Well, the technology is rapidly changing.
Mm-hmm.
So, what you did in a car last year is changing for cars that are being sold now. So some of the vehicles are 100 miles or less, but there are more and more vehicles that are coming on right now for 300 miles. You have a lot of these heavy duty trucks now that are coming on where they're saying 600, 700, 1,000 miles before they have to get a full charge. But the technology is going to continue to evolve. So I would say to people, yes, you should get an electric vehicle. It doesn't always have to be new. We had one of our board members, he purchased electric car. It was small, $1,500. He put about 3,000 in that electric car, and he's rolling around in it. So don't always assume that you got to buy a new one. I mean, most of the vehicles that are sold in the United States every year, approximately two thirds of them are existing vehicles. So we don't get so caught up in that hype about, well, it's got to be new. The price for new cars will come down. The smart money folks understand that without bringing down the price, there's no long-term viability for all the capital that's being invested by major institutions like BMW, like Mercedes, like Ford, Chrysler, and GM. They understand in order to have long-term viability for electric vehicles, they have to do two things. One is deal with the battery issue, bringing the cost of battery down, make sure it's reliable, and then two, the pricing. So the cost of batteries are going up too fast, and the average person is making $30,000 or $50,000 a year must be able to afford electric vehicles. So there's a lot more smart people than I who are working on this issue, and they hear the message as well. The other thing that you should take a look at is to the way you started this conversation. If you remember the Super Bowl, for any of you like football, this year's Super Bowl was kind of like the unofficial kickoff of all the commercials that promoted cars, and the Super Bowl in 2022 were all electric. You're seeing probably in certain markets, I can't say for the whole country, but in certain markets, 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 vehicles that are being advertised on TV are now electric. There's going to be a big push by the industry to normalize electric vehicle acceptance for electric vehicles. But we do have to make them reliable. We do have to make sure that we're not the last communities with gas-powered cars. I do think that when you go to the pump right now, they have diesel pumps. They have 3 levels of gas. And at some fueling stations now also allow you to charge. I think we need to expand that to include hydrogen as well. And we'll always have hopefully we'll always have some fuel diversity.
Okay, I have 2 more questions. I think that's a good place for us to end this because we're at about 50 minutes, and I want to be respectful of your time, Antoine.
Thank you.
Let's see. And I appreciate you being here. I'm learning a lot by hearing you share what you know about these efforts and the efforts you're involved in. Do you know of any data regarding the phasing in of electric vehicles? Are there projections that, by 2030?
Yeah, I mean, so
40.
So there are a lot of projections on the you have state goals, you have local government goals, and you have federal government goals. Every state has a different goal. Clearly, California has and probably will continue to drive the market. Over half of the electric vehicles that are purchased in the United States right now are purchased in California. And even bigger states like New York and others are really small in terms of moving. But that's going to rapidly change over the next 18 months as more technology and chips become available for the cars. Now, remember that despite all the stuff that folks are talking about, less than 10% of all vehicles on the road in the United States are electric. The goal is to get that number well over 50%. Some say by 2035 or 45, but that's very ambitious. Even in places like the District of Columbia, they're working within the next 3 years to make sure that any new cars that are purchased by their local government will be electric. Now, that's not the same case for your medium to heavy duty vehicles. However, they want to make sure there's zero emission. And I think that's a smarter way to go. Don't put yourself in a box. Zero emission is different from saying everything's got to be electric. Do I think, and I agree with many of your folks, I'm for electric cars. I'm waiting for electric car to come in now. However, I like hydrogen. I was loaned a hydrogen vehicle to drive around for the weekend by Toyota. I think that renewable green hydrogen is a good way to go. It's still in its infancy for vehicles. However, it too needs more technology and investment, because remember, for the last 20, 30 years, the oil industry and others have been really fighting against the electrification of America, particularly in the area of vehicles. When you look at Europe, you look at China. China, for example, they're the dominant force in electric cars and bikes, right? And so America is so far behind the other Western countries, industrialized world in terms of EV adoption. We've got a long way to go to catch up, but I think we'll get there. But we are far behind France and Great Britain, even, like I say, especially countries like China. China beat America to the punch on this.
Okay. Yeah, I think that will be helpful for people to know as well what the other countries are doing in this regard.
Oh, we're behind. We are far behind.
Okay. BGS Idmore, salute to the master teacher, says, how will EV usher in self-driving cars? Do you know anything about self-driving cars?
Of course, autonomous vehicles. Yes, we are very involved with that as well. It will. I like autonomous vehicles. I think many of us that grew up in the 70s and 60s, we remember shows like the Jetsons, and many of those technologies actually come into play, like the phones and flying cars and all that, and autonomous vehicles. So they're working on flying cars. They're also working on autonomous vehicles. EV adoption will accelerate that, no doubt about it, because again, that is fueled by electrification. But we have to be very careful. One of the big challenges that the federal government is dealing with is cybersecurity. And so when we talk about the ability to hack into cars, take control of cars, take control of anything that is electrical is hackable, right? And so we have to be very careful of that. And as someone who's very progressive, but very concerned about safety and security, I'm concerned about the hackability of autonomous vehicles, because it can be literally a drone on steroids, because you can program that and do some really not nice things. I'm very concerned about drones, and I'm even more concerned about autonomous cars.
Okay.
But people are obsessed with that technology. I've been in meetings and forums where they're rapidly moving around autonomous or self-driving heavy duty equipment like tractor trailers, because they can program it, put it on the highway, don't have to worry about the driver going to sleep, right? And then they have some technology where electric vehicles, they're going to be able to automatically recharge on the highway without ever having to pull over to charge. So don't look at the EV technology as where it is right now. There's so much technology that's being developed around the globe and the United States, where You can drive, and the highway has charging in it. They have some where it can recharge from the phone, from a satellite. There's so many different forms of EV technology, charging technology that's coming to the market. The question is going to be what's going to survive, but there'll be all different forms of charging technology.
Okay. Antoine, I'm going to squeeze in a comment here from Aquatech. I always appreciate he's always very generous in terms of the donations, and it's a really good question. I'm going to squeeze in my last one, and then I'll let you go because I know you have other meetings to go to.
Yes, I got.
Okay, so I'll make this quick. Aquatech says, would there be grants/rebates for homeowners who need to upgrade their electrical service and install charging infrastructure? So do you foresee that?
Yeah, there are, but there needs to be more widely accessible and promoted ones. And we are standing up a program that hopefully will go national in that space. But you're right, a lot of you have a lot of homes that are still using fuses to power their house. Not everyone has a 220 line or a circuit breaker. So you have that issue. Many people live in neighborhoods, even in so-called middle class, upper middle class neighborhoods where the power goes out regularly. So yes, we do. There are some grants in certain states to purchase vehicles and for upgrading, but the same way years ago, we helped people put hot water tanks and furnaces in their houses, we need to go to the government and ask them to help provide incentives and grants and rebates to help people to do that. A lot of your state energy organizations are beginning to go down that road, and we need to push that along. We need to have forums like this to encourage people to offer those to folks. Because as communities of color, we are behind in terms of EV adoption. As I stated earlier, we're often on the top of the worst list. Bad health, bad diet, low access to technology, and we are often in what we call heat zones, meaning that our homes have fewer access to trees. Our streets are hotter, 10 to 15 degrees hotter, because we don't have enough trees on our trees or shade trees on our streets. And then we often are in food deserts, banking deserts, and now one of our communities are what we call charging deserts, because we do not have adequate access to charging, which means people will then say, well, why should I buy electric vehicles? Because there's no charging in my neighborhood, right? Which then means they slow the adoption of electric vehicles in areas because they are in nationally known, regionally known, and locally known charging deserts. So yes, we need charging at home, but we also need curbside charging, because overabundance of our folks live in apartments and apartment buildings, right? And so we need access to curbside charging as well. Otherwise, we have this unequal access to EV charging.
Okay, everyone, this is the link to the Clean Cities Coalition, Greater Washington, D.C. I'll leave the link in the description box as well, in case you want to go take a look and read some more about Antoine and what he's doing. But one last one, Antoine, because I know you got to run. I was going to ask you, was there a projected year where electric vehicles would be the majority vehicles on the road? But what it sounds like I heard you say was it's a balanced approach. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket and try to make everything electric. There are other forms like biodiesel, and I think I heard you say hydrogen. So it's more of a balanced approach.
Yeah. So, 2045 is kind of like the national number to get to 50%. But we'll see, because there are folks who are looking at a number of technologies, and it also requires significant investments in the grid, and it also requires significant investments in the equipment, right? That manufacturing the technology the ability to get these vehicles out there, the ability to make sure that multi-unit dwellings, curbside charging happens. Now, some people are arguing that we simply need to do what Sheetz and other companies and Shell are doing. They are beginning to phase out their gas stations and converting them to EV stations, right? So, for example, we're doing an event for Drive Electric Week within the next 2 weeks, where we're going to be at a former gas station in Montgomery County, Maryland, that now only offers electric charging. So it's happening. You're seeing it at supermarkets. You're seeing charging at some drugstores. You're seeing it at malls. You're seeing it at hotels. And, at some point, charging will be like the adapter that you see in your hotel room or at the street light, where you put money into to park. You see, and those street lights will have charging access, as it currently happens in some parts of Europe, and in pilot projects that happen in New York City and California. So don't look at just the big machine, but there's so many different technologies, and you can be certain that it will rapidly expand. But my push is fuel diversity, and that we get also more diverse people owning companies in this space, doing research in this space, doing workforce development initiatives in this space, so that communities of color are just not spectators as all this stuff happens right before their eyes.
Okay. All right. Well, Antoine, I want to. Do you have anything else?
I would just ask everyone to follow us. You can follow me on Twitter, Antoine 1906 at Antoine_1906 on Twitter. You can follow Greater Washington at GWRCCC on Twitter and Instagram as well. And get involved. This is happening. This is real. Make sure your community is not left behind in the electrification of vehicles in America. Thank you.
Okay, Antoine, thank you for coming on. I learned a lot. At some point, I'd like to have you back. And if you have colleagues,
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, if you have colleagues who want to talk about this as well, the door
I will. I'll
is
bring some
open
folks on with me next time. Yes.
Yeah.
And there's a good group called AV Hybrid Noir. When we come back, maybe I'll bring them on as well, and we can talk about some of the equity issues around electrification as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Everyone, I'm going to read over some of your comments here, and then I'm going to wrap up. I think this is happening. Again, I watched the commercial last night, the Chevy Fleetwood Mac commercial. So the companies are trying to push this out here, and you all are interested in this. So yeah, we'll do more of these. So I'm going to read some of these comments. I didn't get to all your comments while Antoine was here. He's a busy guy, he has meetings to run to, but I think getting both sides of the discussion is valuable. The yin and the yang, the up, the down, the light, the dark, the positives and the negatives. Let's see. I'm going to read some of these. I think I left off here. Doug said, I need to look into the current research for using cannabis to create batteries. That would be a great move. Interesting. Aquateki says, lifetime of each vehicle. Rael says, it can be taken with you if they release it to consumers. Slick Rick said, cell phones weren't raising the prices of all other goods and services. The climate change crowd are breaking people. Big difference. Alonzo, the all-star advisor. Stop through. UFO Kamikaze, thank you for stopping through. He says, who killed the electric car? Great movie. Sheed, stop through. Complex Design says LSEV. Royston Gibbs, thank you for stopping through. Doug says, I would like to learn more about charging stations as an investment. Aquateki says, can vouch for the respiratory illness issue. Complex Design says partner with real estate developers to provide them with chargers for their various building projects, homes, apartments, etc. True commercial vehicles aren't regulated as heavily as consumer vehicles with respect to pollution. That was from Aquateki. UFO Kamikaze says electric vehicles produce a tremendous amount of low end torque, perfect for towing heavy loads. All right, we got some physics here. Let's see. Aquateki says range anxiety is real. I think this is related to when I talked about driving long distances from Buffalo to Atlanta, for example, or from coast to coast. The master teacher asked this question earlier. Doug says, until the price of batteries comes down, I would prefer new. UFO Kamikaze says, no more oil changes, coolant changes, tune-ups, or exhaust maintenance. I'm sold on that alone. Okay, so UFO Kamikaze, you're pretty bullish on electric vehicles. Akuteki says, facts. Complex Design says, infrastructure bill has a cash for clunkers. 2.0 built in it. You'll get $7,000 to $10,000 to trade in your vehicle to a hybrid or electric car. Add that to rebates and tax credits to bring the cost down. I love my current car, though. I don't want to give it up until, but you never know. Let's see. Doug says in VA, it's 2035. I think that's related to the projections. Royston says, what about heavy-duty machinery such as dirt diggers and train locomotives? Rael says, Yunkin is trying to peel that back, or so he says. They piggybacked off of California. UFO Kamikaze says, just imagine the environmental impact of eliminating the amount of oil needed for oil changes, which includes storing and recycling the oil used. Aquateki says, would there be grants? Okay, I already asked him that. UFO Kamikaze says, former professional forestry worker for 12 years, even chainsaws are going battery powered. Let's see. Aquateki says, lots of people are still running on less than 200 amperes of electrical service. UFO says we have solar farms out here in rural America. UFO Kamikaze, which part of rural America are you referring to? That was a thank you to Complex Design. Aquateki says, great stream. Thank you, Aquateki. And thank you for your support for the streams as well, as always. Let's see. Complex Design says hemp nanocarbons. Doug says, as usual, great stream. UFO Kamikaze says, I'm mounting 8 solar panels on top of my utility trailer with 2 deep cycle batteries and a 5,000 watt power inverter. It will produce endless portable power and serve as a silent home generator. All right. I think that's a good place to wrap up. Everyone, thank you for watching this stream. Thank you to Antoine for coming on. Hopefully this will be the first of many discussions of this type. This is an emerging technology. Once again, if you're watching on the playback, I don't have a super chat over here. And if you want to make a donation to the channel, that information is here in the chat. My Cash App and PayPal. Please consider joining the Big Words LLC newsletter. That information is here. And yeah, look out for forthcoming streams and pre-records. And let me know if you guys have ideas, if you guys have things you want to hear about. I have guests that I want to bring on, but if you guys have guests and topics that you want to hear, please let me know. And let me know if you have questions or comments if you're watching this on the playback. And thank you to all of you who sat in on this one and watched it live, and who let your voices and your questions be heard there in the chat. So I'm going to sign off. Please like, share, and subscribe. Everyone enjoy the rest of your Monday. And as always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Take care, and I'll talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.